Hi everyone, LazyFire here. Welcome back to Battlefield 4 multiplayer. Today we're playing on Operation Mortar and we're going to be playing a round of Obliteration. This was actually a pretty fun game and I wanted to show it off even though this was not intended to be one of the last videos I was doing. It's interesting for a few different reasons. First off, Obliteration, we've only seen it really once before and that was on a pretty big map. This is a smaller game mode, there's fewer people total and there's fewer vehicles and it's a different map. So I figure, hey, why not show it off? And right here, we'll see the dangers of having your controller disconnect from you. Yeah, that kind of hurt. Oh well. That's going to be a theme, is me crashing or being taken out of the sky in a helicopter throughout the entire map here. Sometimes I won't even be flying it. And sometimes it'll be somebody else's doing that I fall out of the sky. But yes, anyways, this is Operation Mortar. It's one of the Naval Strike DLC maps, and it's actually a lot of fun in a smaller obliteration mode. Now, kind of a note about the Naval Strike DLC maps, most of them are set up exactly like Operation Mortar is, and like the other one we saw, Operation Wavebreaker, where there's basically a center mass of island there on the right to me now, and then there's smaller islands that kind of dot the perimeter of that island, and then there's a bunch of open ocean. So you have all these canals and stuff that go between the islands, and it's pretty neat actually. The setup doesn't really get old. There's enough variety to each one of these things, and the different islands are large enough or spread out enough or in different enough configurations where it doesn't really feel like it's all the same map or anything like that. Now, the fun thing about Operation Mortar and Obliteration especially is that the center island, at the peak of the center island, you can see the paradrop point there, that blue point that's right over where Giblover there is. That's where both teams paradrop from, or into. So if you're on either team, you're paradropping into the same location. That makes it a little difficult for one team or the other to really claim any sort of advantage when they spawn in from that location. There are times where I've really felt like some maps are just not fair with their paradrops. In certain areas, certain teams feel like they have a bit of an advantage or something like that. For the most part, they're actually pretty decent about that, but this map, they're very much the same. You can actually get into gunfights with the people who are spawning in on their paradrop point as you fall into the... Oop, there we go. As you fall onto the map. Right there, I got hit with something. I am not entirely sure what. Things are not supposed to turn helicopters on their sides anymore, but there it is. Now, another thing to note about this particular game we're playing is that this is a small server. I think this is a 24-player total server. Most of the Obliteration servers I've played on are 32-player total, so 16 per side. 12 per side is actually what the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 are limited to in their largest games. So this is actually a pretty small server for a PC one. Even 48, 24 per side is not unheard of for Obliteration on the PC. And this was actually pretty refreshing. It was actually kind of nice that there's two things about Obliteration that are kind of neat, is that there's always going to be a fight over the bomb. So if you go towards the bomb, there's always going to be people. And there's always going to be some sort of vehicle fight happening on the periphery. Sometimes right up on the bomb too. In this particular map, what really showed off that fact is that whenever there's a bomb on the ground, most of each team is actually focusing on it. This is kind of different than if you were playing, say, Conquest, where that generally doesn't happen. It's usually a bunch of small periphery fights and then a few really major fights over near the points. Yeah, that multi-kill right there was actually pretty satisfying. In this one, it's definitely a lot of fights right on top of the bomb. And it was the same way with the Goldman Railway version of Obliteration I played, and pretty much every Obliteration round I've ever played has been like that. And it's really fun if you're looking for a lot of really fast action. Conquest is still more my speed of things, I've found. And we actually, and by we I mean me and a few other goons, have been jumping into other game modes. We played around a couple rounds of Domination, a round of Team Deathmatch. I'm still not a huge fan of either of those modes. They feel a little bit too small. They don't really feel right with the way Battlefield controls and moves and everything happens in it. And that's just me. There are people who really enjoy that stuff. I'm not going to detract from that fact, but I really like having vehicles and having these open maps and everything in a Battlefield game. That's just my thought. You'll also notice that there's very few vehicles actually active at any given time on this map. There's the murder boat, there's the attack helicopter, and the stealth jet. Those are the only three weaponized vehicles on this entire map. Everything else is hovercraft and jet ski. That's actually, I think, an effect of the size of the server rather than anything anyone else set. At least I think it is, because people are usually obsessed with being in battlefield vehicles, so makes sense to me. It's an interesting choice, I think, in a lot of ways. It also means there's another thing to note here. These are instant vehicle respawn servers, or just about instant vehicle respawn. You'll see in a moment that, yeah, there is a bit of a gap, but it's very, very short. It basically means that if you are on the ground in any capacity, you're probably dealing with the vehicle at any given time. So the other team can bring their stealth jet in, crash it. Actually, at the beginning of the match, when you saw the guy go ahead and crash his stealth jet so he could spawn on a C point there, that was kind of the idea. It's going to be back in a couple seconds. Who cares? You'll also notice just now, actually, that I ran out of rockets very, very quickly. I switched over to Zunis for the attack helicopter. They work pretty well, actually. I was very impressed with them. I'm still rocking the heat seekers. I haven't decided to switch over from those. I feel like they're still useful. I do find myself getting fewer and fewer hits with heat seekers these days, though. I feel like maybe people have kind of wised up, kind of get away from fights and everything faster. Right here, this is how you take out a boat. God, I don't believe I actually made it through that. I thought I was going to crash into the water while taking that guy out. I would have been okay with that, actually. My team's already taken 1 point. We're actually going to take all 3 points before the end of this thing, so don't worry too much. And up here, this is where you spawn in and make your run down the hill. Over at the C point here, you can't see it now. There's not there anymore, but earlier in the game, there were definitely the guy who jumped in there and the guy who spawned on him. And you might have wondered what the hell they were doing, considering their team didn't have the bomb. The bomb wasn't actually even established on the map yet, and they got rid of a vehicle first thing, or the one guy did and somebody else spawned on him. The idea that he went through on that is actually pretty smart, and it's basically the idea of kind of pre-camping an area before it's even relevant. And this happens a lot on the bigger servers, where people who are trying to get in an area and kind of secure it for their team so they can go plant it, especially areas that are closer to the enemy side of the map. It's a pretty popular strategy. I don't think it would work on a smaller server size like this one, but that guy tried it, and we gotta give him credit. What happened there was actually somebody jumped into the AA gun on their carrier and shot me down. I was not expecting that. And if I knew where this guy was going with that bomb, I would be a rich man. I think he was actually going towards the A point. That makes the most sense to me, but it seems like he was taking the weirdest route there possible. This team was not overly smart, as you can probably tell, and you'll be able to see it even more in the future. They kept giving the boat to this one guy who just basically parked the boat and fire into the hills. Not really the smartest move. It might get you a couple of kills and everything, but not really a great strategy. Right here, watch their helicopters. The guy would bail out the second he got shot at. I mean, there were a lot of issues with this other team. I can't really say that because of our superior play style or anything like that, we won. It was just the other team was kind of bad. And that's really what a lot of Obliteration boils down to. If one team is just not even going for the bomb or not coordinated enough, they will lose. Luckily, we were a pretty coordinated team. Watch this here. He almost got stabbed to death. An interesting thing I really should have mentioned in all the knifings that I've done is that if I was shot at any given time, shot and killed at any given time before the knife went into the guy, I would have been killed as well. You can actually kill people out of knife animations on your teammates. It's not uncommon, but it's not exactly a regular occurrence. So that guy got real lucky. What we're seeing here is this is Kerosene flying, and he's actually a goon. He wasn't responding to me in chat when I asked him what he was thinking. You'll see why. And so I eventually did jump into the text chat to ask him what the fuck he was thinking flying these things. You know what? I gotta say this much. I made it look a little bit easier than it actually is in flying in this game. It's not easy. Especially if you're trying to use a mouse and keyboard. and you're not really used to Battlefield 4 flight, I could see how you may forget where your countermeasures are, which he actually did there. He didn't launch countermeasures while he was being shot at, which, like, I was in Mumble very quickly after that, just like, why does this guy think that's a good idea? Why, you know, you're getting locked onto twice. Might as well fire a countermeasure at least once. No, nothing. And right here, trying to hit this boat. That would have been great, a running hit on that boat. Instead, I get beached in this jet ski. Take minor cover over here. And just fire. Now, it turns out, according to somebody, that if you hit the jet ski right in the windshield with an explosive, you can actually do really, really high damage. And I really wish I could have done that, but instead, Kerosene and Hagrid here, I don't know what happened. Kerosene swam out to the boat, and I think the other boat actually took it out. I thought it was Hagrid at first. And then I try to get their helicopter before it spawns in, but no luck. So now I'm out of SRA ammo, which is unfortunate. I think the SRA having fewer rockets makes sense. I mean, it has the same amount of rockets as anything else. I'd really like to see them go in and patch the Stingers and Iglas down to 2 rockets per person per life. That could be refilled by ammo boxes, of course. But I don't think they're going to do that. It's just a very annoying thing to have the missile spam that there is occasionally. People talk about the planes and helicopters and such not being invincible in Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4, where they were pretty untouchable at times in Battlefield 3. That's not true. They would still get shot down in Battlefield 3 if you had a pilot who didn't know quite what he was doing. But in Battlefield 4, it's not that bad an issue right now on the PC at least. It feels like people are moving away from the lock-on weapons. As such, I've seen a lot more of the SRA and the SMAW and the RPG in recent weeks, which is nice. Well, they're moving away somewhat, I should say. I wouldn't classify it as moving away completely. But yeah, here we go. I'm berating Kerosene here, if I can spell his name correctly, and I don't think I even do that. He wasn't responding to me in Mumble, and so I didn't know what was going on. I think he just didn't have his mic plugged in. But yeah, you know, one of those things is definitely when I crashed early in the game, and you know, I said my controller went out. Makes sense. Here he is. He's flying now. He's doing totally okay. It does take a little while to get used to these controls, like I was saying before, and if you're not used to it, and this hovering thing, man, oh man. He is firing right towards these guys, giving me some good shots. I can't complain about that. But if you're not used to flying these things, you will get just absolutely crushed by people. And it's unfortunate, but you know, there is a test range. You can go in there and kind of pick up what you need to pick up to figure this all out. And you know, people, of course, no matter what, how many hours they spend in the test range, will end up crashing the occasional helicopter or something like that. There we go. The ACWR, the weapon I have here, is also a carbine, similar to the MTAR you've seen me use in the past with the engineer class, and it's actually pretty decent. The MTAR, unfortunately for me, stopped working as well as it used to, and the ACWR seems to work really well. And right there, that is the danger of this map. Look at all those guys. Look at all those guys that were up there. That's where they spawn. Can't really do much about that. But, yeah, this is the end of the round. Watch this happen. Didn't even get a chance to take off on that last one. I'm sure I would have done something really great. But yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. I actually look forward to a couple of more of these maybe in the future. Obliteration rounds with smaller teams. It seems like this was correctly sized for that sort of thing, and felt like it was really good overall. So, thanks for watching, everyone. There's one more video left. I'll see if I can get somebody to fill in for the person who was originally supposed to film that with me, and I'll see you later. Bye.